Welcome you back to the Patrick Netherton Show, 1130 The Tiger. We are pleased to welcome in his first year in the majors, Adam Oller, former All-American at Northwestern State, Southland Conference Pitcher of the Year, who has had quite a journey, as if you will, to get himself into the bigs. Adam, how are you, brother?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. We're in San Francisco right now, so I'm actually sitting in the stadium right now.
Oh.
Field.
Well, I have basically the same view here in this tiny cubicle in Shreveport. It's almost exactly the same. Hey, look, this has been obviously quite an undertaking for you. By the way, people kind of forget you weren't a pitcher necessarily when you were at Northwestern to start with. You played some catcher while you were there. You kind of, and then you found the spot. You get in the pitcher. You become the Friday night guy. You get drafted. You bounce around a little bit. You end up in Australia at one point playing. Just what's this been like for you? This journey and to finally find yourself where you are now. I've got to imagine the way you've had to earn this makes it a lot different for you than maybe some of these other guys that are there.
Oh yeah, I mean it's been obviously a roller coaster. I've been with 4 different orgs now. Really, I've done everything you can do in baseball. I've been released, I've been traded, I've been Move 5. I mean, I've played winter ball. I've been at every level. I mean, I've done everything you could possibly do. I've made the big leagues now, so we've checked all the boxes. But yeah, I mean it's been crazy. Like you said, I mean. You asked me, what is it, 9 years ago?
Yeah.
9 years ago now, if I was going to be in the big leagues, especially as a pitcher, I probably would have laughed. Just because, that's not something that when I went to college, that wasn't necessarily the route I was trying to take. I was just trying to get school paid for. And, 9 years later, here we are. But it's been a crazy ride. I mean, I wouldn't change anything just with all the people I've met, all the places I've seen, and things I've gotten to do. It's had its ups and downs, just like everything in life. But it's been worth it.
You mentioned, like I said, you came into Northwestern. You weren't necessarily going to be a pitcher. You had pitched. It wasn't like you didn't have experience doing it, but that wasn't necessarily the route. When did you realize while you were in Natchitoches that, hey, this is something I could do and potentially could do this at the next level somewhere?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Like I think I only had, looking back in high school, I think I only had 2 pitching offers out of high school. One was to Corpus Christi,
mm-hmm.
and then the other one was, and that one wasn't even like a full offer, just because at that time I had already agreed to go to Northwestern. But Northwestern was actually a dual position offer. Like I was originally going as a catcher and possible pitching if it worked out, and one thing led to another, and ended up choosing pitching. But I wouldn't say it wasn't something that I thought was going to happen. Even after, my freshman year, where I was All-American and freshman of the year. Even after that, it wasn't something that was in my sight. It wasn't until probably my junior year when I met with. He's a scout for the Twins. I don't know if he's still a scout for the Twins,
mm-hmm.
but a guy named Greg Runzer, who was a scout for the Twins at that time. And when I met with him, that was kind of where I was like, oh, okay, like I might actually have a chance at this. And even still, like I've told a lot of people, like it wasn't something that was a definitive, like that's what I'm going to do until like the draft process. Like at the end of that season, having the season that I had my junior year, at the end of that, I was like, okay, like I'm getting drafted for sure. But it wasn't anything that I had anticipated, and I don't think it's really something you can prepare for until it actually happens.
And you end up getting drafted in the Pirates organization. You're kind of bouncing around low A, rookie ball. Pirates end up letting you go. You end up getting picked up by the Giants, and then COVID happens, and you're playing in Australia, and the Mets pick you up, and then they trade. You become pitcher of the year in the minor leagues in their system, and then you get traded to the A's, and now you're in the majors. Obviously, I got to see a lot of you in Natchitoches, call a lot of your games. And you as a right-hander, you've got to have some pretty special stuff for a big league squad to take a chance on you. They love lefties, but as a righty, you got to have something going for you. What did you feel like you had going for you to start with, and then maybe what have you developed subsequent to that that's allowed you to make the jump up to the majors?
I think out of high school or out of college, the biggest thing I had going for me was, I didn't throw spectacular hard or anything, but I could locate pretty well and I knew how to pitch. So going into pro ball, I could locate, command the ball really well, and it was kind of one of those things that when I got released by the Pirates, that was like the moment for me where I was just like, all right, like, I don't throw, for being a right-handed pitcher, I don't throw hard enough, and I don't have good enough stuff to make it with what I have. So I need to change something. And I think every baseball player, especially professionally, at some point comes to a point in their career where it's either you adapt and change, or you stay stagnant and you don't go anywhere. And at that moment when I got released, it was like, okay, well, I got to throw harder, and I got to get better stuff. And I went to Driveline, worked on some stuff that off season going into independent ball. I pretty much took the mindset of like, I'm either going to throw 100 or I'm blowing my arm out. Because at this point, like, what do I have to lose?
Right.
Like, I was already released, so it didn't matter. And I never got to 100, but I still haven't yet. But I got the velo from like I want to say like 89, 92, and like good day maybe a 93. And now doing that, I ended up getting the velo up to where I'm sitting 3 to 5, 4 to 6, and I'm running up to 97 a couple times this year.
Yeah.
And developed a better changeup, developed a better breaking ball. And it's kind of funny, I was talking to some of my buddies that played at Northwestern, like Devin Bear, Josh Morris, Parker, all those guys, and they had not seen me pitch since college until I was in the big leagues. And it was one of those things that if you saw me throw now comparatively to when I was in college, I'm a night and day different pitcher. Like, I throw harder, I've got better stuff now. I've dealt with some command issues lately, but that comes and goes with the shortened spring training. But it's kind of been something that I've had to adapt and make myself worth more. And last year the whole goal was do what I can to get to the big leagues, because that was my best opportunity with how I was selling. And it didn't happen, but everything happens for a reason. I ended up getting to Florida, almost right outside of Florida in spring training, and then getting traded over to the A's. And I knew getting traded over, especially in the trade that I was in, that it was going to be a good opportunity for me, and I had to make the most of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I did well in spring training, and it was kind of one of those things that I had, like, my role with the A's at the time was I was going to be a long relief spot starter, and if they needed it. And then when we traded Manaea, that just kind of secured a spot for a starter. But my I guess mindset this year is just kind of being, whatever they need. If they need me out of the bullpen, if they need me as a starter, then be ready. And that's kind of how it's been so far.
Yeah. Talking to Adam Oller, now with the Oakland A's, former Northwestern State All-American and Southland Pitcher of the Year. And I'll say the same thing that Devin Bear and those guys said. I haven't seen you throw since you were at Northwestern State, and got to watch your start the other night against the Rangers. And the thing I kept kind of going back on is everything moves now. Right. It used to be, okay, you could get away with a four-seam fastball located in the right spot. And we always love to say in college, the best pitch is a well-located fastball. you could get away with that, and then maybe have a secondary, maybe even a third pitch that you call on from time to time. But you could get by with just a really good, well-located fastball. Now watching you pitch, it is remarkable the amount of movement that you're getting on all of your stuff. And I want to say Hunter Pence was the color commentator, and he mentioned that I think you have the most movement on your slider of any pitcher in baseball right now, is I believe what he said. So I've got to imagine that mindset of going from, hey, I can get by with my, low 90s fastball if I put it in the right spot, to, okay, now I've got to have everything that moves all over the place. I've got to imagine that's a different mindset for a guy.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think, one thing that gets overlooked by a lot of fans and a lot of people that aren't necessarily like in baseball is how hard the big leagues is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I understand that, normal people, they look at it and they're just like, oh, like they're the big leaguers, they should be able to do what they do. But when you look at it in the grand scheme of things, I mean, the jump from AAA to the big leagues is even though it doesn't seem like it's that much, just because it's one level lower, it's a big difference. Like, that last start, for instance, I missed 2 locations. I had one pitch back up, I had a cutter back up, and I had a fastball that I missed a location with, and both end up being hit for home runs.
Right.
So that's kind of the thing, like with the big leagues. Like in AAA, if you throw harder, if you have good stuff, you can get away with some spots, missing some locations or some backups every now and then, and you're not going to necessarily get hurt. You might every now and then, but it's not going to be that often. One thing I've realized in the big leagues is if you fall behind in counts, or if you miss your locations, they're big league hitters. They'll hurt you.
Yeah.
And that's kind of something I've had to adjust to. It's not a matter of being perfect every time, but it's a matter of being in that location, or if you miss at that location, you better miss on that side of the plate. And obviously, I realized very quickly that you got to have stuff that moves, and if you don't, they're just going to sit dead red fastball, and it doesn't matter how hard you throw or how good your stuff is. If you can't locate anything else, a big league hitter can hit a fastball.
Yeah. It was interesting in watching your start the other night, because 13 pitch first inning, then you run into trouble in the second, you give up 5 runs. But then you came back out and threw shutout ball for 3 more innings. I'm curious how important for you those last 3 innings were after struggling through the second. Kotsay lets you come back out there and lets you keep going. And it, I don't know, maybe it's one of those games where, hey, our bullpen's short, so you're going to have to eat up some innings for you, as they say in baseball parlance, wear it on occasion. But you came back out there and threw 3 shutout afterwards. How important was that for you, and maybe for your coaches, to see that out of you?
Oh, I mean, it's huge. Obviously, I'm not happy with giving up 5 runs ever, period. But it was one of those things that it was I guess, as you would say, a not up or shut up moment. And when I came off after that second inning, I wanted to, like, it was one of those feelings that, like, you're just like, I want to quit. Like, I just don't want to be here anymore. But that's not how I was raised, and that's not how the A's teach. I mean, you get hurt. That's part of baseball. Every now and then they get your number, and that is what it is. But if you just sit there and quit, then you shouldn't be there in the first place. And when I came off after that, I fully expected that I was done with how that inning went. And Kotsay came up to me and he was just like, "Listen, it sucks. I know it does, but at the end of the day, we need you to go out there and you gotta do your thing." And I went out there, and the game's not over. Just because I have a bad inning doesn't mean the game's over. And so I had to go out there and keep my guys in the game as best I could. And it doesn't help either that we found out later on I was tipping every pitch out of the stretch.
Oh yeah.
So that sucks, but it is what it is, and we identified it and adjusted it. But sucks, but that's part of baseball.
So that actually makes me curious. How do you find that out?
it's pretty obvious. Like I made some pitches out of the stretch that were, you know, great, great pitches that I'm getting no like
Yeah,
no
they're
attempt
laying
on.
off of. They're not even interested in.
Yeah, whenever it's pretty obvious when you throw a breaking ball or you throw a changeup and it's half a ball off the plate in your exact location and in the right spot, right count, everything, and you get a pretty much a no attempt at it.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of gives you a dead red, like okay, I'm tipping something. And with the fact that every fastball, every cutter, every two seam that I threw, they were dead red on. That kind of gives you an idea, like okay, there's something going on. So just like every other team, just has their guys in the dugout constantly trying to pick up what the pitcher's doing, just get any sort of advantage you can. We also had that. So, we had some pitchers that were in that were in the dugout watching me, and they came up after me afterwards, and they're like, hey, you were doing this. We had every pitcher going. And I'm like, okay, well, that sucks.
Yeah.
I'm glad I know now, so I can at least make
Sure.
the adjustment to where the next outings, it's not the same. But that's part of baseball. Like a lot of people don't realize how much that goes on just to try to get any sort of advantage you possibly can.
Oh yeah. And you're a Houston area native. My producer is a huge Astros fan. I'll just say, thank goodness you weren't playing the Astros, or else you'd have probably given up 11 runs in the second inning. I kid. No, I'm not gonna. That's mostly for my producer, Adam, more than anything else. Hey, last thing, just obviously your brother Josh, who we know, your family, we've known for years. I know that your agent and all of them were out there for your first start in Tampa, and then obviously kind of following along. I know your mom was pretty instrumental in you hanging in there when you wanted to quit and kind of go on your last hurrah through the independent leagues. What's it like for you to see not just your dreams come true, but look, Joller's, your brother Josh Oller, his dreams, your parents' dreams, like everyone's living their dream for you, with you. What's that like to be able to fulfill that for not only you but for them as well?
Oh, it's so special, dude. It's one of those things that it was kind of funny. Like in that debut, everyone's like, "Hey, like I understand you're gonna be real nervous. Like it is, you're gonna be anxious. You're gonna have nerves. Like this is how it is." To be honest with you, the game itself wasn't nerve wracking because at the end of the day, pitching's pitching. Baseball's baseball. You're just more in front of people in bigger stadiums, with people that are household names.
Mm-hmm.
But what's the nerve wracking part is in that situation, I've got 25 plus people in the stands watching me and all seeing their, like, not only my dreams but their dreams come true. Like everything that my parents had sacrificed, my siblings had sacrificed to get me to where I'm at. Like that was the nerve wracking part. Like sitting there like, oh God, like, I can't let them down. And, obviously just as any parent would say, like, no matter what the situation is, like, yeah, the debut didn't go as planned as far as my outing, but at the end of the day, like from a parent's perspective and a sibling perspective, they don't care. Like my friends, they don't care how I throw. It's just more of like the idea of like, I with all the work and everything that I put in, I got there. And, it was a special moment for afterwards, even though I was upset about the game. It was a special moment to be able to spend that with them. Just because, frankly, with everything, regardless of how much I've trained, how much I've worked, everything, I wouldn't be where I'm at without them. Just because there were many moments throughout the minor leagues where, I was broke. Like even with all the jobs that I had in the offseason, I was broke. Like I wouldn't have been able to keep playing without my parents' support, and that was kind of one of those things that it was nice to, after everything that my parents had done for me and my siblings had done for me, to be able to give them something back.
Mm-hmm.
To make it like, okay, like it was worth everything, to where I finally, I got there, and not only got there, but I want to stay and I want to make a career out of it. And that made everything worth it. Just being able to see them get to experience that moment.
Right. Well, look, those last 3 innings you threw against Texas, even tipping your pitches, you still threw 3 shutout after that. I think that's a great, I think that's a great learning lesson and a jumping off point and a growing point for you. And dude, we're looking forward to a lot of success. I'll say this in honor of your brother. You did not beat Notre Dame, and he did. So other than that, I think you've got everything on Joller. So, but I just wanted, I wanted to stick up for him for once.
No, that's fair. That's fair. He does have more. I will say he has more wins than I do in college. So.
That's true. He did have a double-digit win season, and you never quite got there. Of course, you were a Friday night guy, and he never had to face another Friday night starter. So you got that on him. Hey, Adam, much success, man. Continued success. We obviously want to see you up there for a long time in the show. It's been awesome watching your journey. Obviously, a lot of fun to watch you at NSU, but even more fun to see you with the A's. And we're hoping for great stuff for you, dude.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Hopefully I get a chance to see this offseason.
All right. That's Adam Oller, pitcher for the Oakland A's, former Northwestern State Demon hurler.